Hey folks, today I'm going to be talking about something I get asked about a lot on stream, and that is how I keep my stash organized and clean despite having a lot of items. For a little bit of context, I currently have a level 100 Frostclaw Runemaster at 2000 corruption, a level 100 Fisher Warlock at 500 corruption, and a level 99 Aerial Assault Bird at about 300 corruption. This is all COF characters, and this is about 1.5 months into cycle 1. I also have currently 124 stash tabs, and in this video I'm hoping to help you guys get a little bit more organized with your stash and give an overview of some of the tips and tricks that I use to keep my stash organized. So jumping right into it, I'll start with a very useful trick that I learned from actually one of the viewers on my stream, and that is how to make sure that the stash opens up to the tab that you were previously on or any tab that you want. So if you have a lot of tabs, this is a really useful tip because scrolling through everything every time is a complete pain. So the way it works is you'll notice when you open the tab, it doesn't go to the one I was last on. So right here, it's on my first dump tab. Actually, in this case, it's my third one. Say you want it to open up to we'll say idles. So in this case, if I close the tab and reopen it, it will not open to this tab. However, if I either move it around, like see I drag it over and then back, if I do that, it will open to it. Or if I hit the sort button, you see here on the first dump tab, I'll hit the sort button and then do the same. It's now on the tab that I want. So super useful if you're using dump tabs or anything you want to reopen to the same tab. Just do that. Next, I'll talk a little bit about the quick view here. This is extremely useful as your stash starts to get large. If you're scrolling through the bars here at the top, going through all your different tabs, this is very painful. The quick view here is typically a lot better for quick visibility. You have a lot more stuff on screen at once. You can see a lot more tabs. You can scroll through quicker with the scroll bar, and it's generally a lot more readable, I find personally, than all these little tabs. So definitely get used to using this quick view if you're not already. And on the same note, the search here is extremely important if you have a lot of stash tabs and a lot of items in general. So just as an example of one thing you can do is you can search pretty much anything on the items, but say I want to look for things with 1 legendary potential. Here I can just type that, and you can see here's all the 1 LPs in my dump tabs, and this is something that's very useful for organizing. So these are my dump tabs when I'm going through. This is how I do it. I search for specific things, and then I put them where they need to go as far as organization. Another thing that is useful is what I personally do is grouping things together. You can see here is my one-handed melee weapons. These are all 1 LP, and you can see I put them all side by side. I know a lot of people sort of just dump them together into just unique tabs or whatever, but I find this is very helpful if you're trying to quickly compare all the items you have and trying to find them. It takes a little bit longer to put it together. Make sure you don't hit the sort button or you'll ruin everything, but I find this a lot more orderly, and it's definitely worth the little bit of extra effort. Another thing that's useful as you're building out your tab, as I'm sure a lot of you guys probably don't have the millions and probably tens of millions of gold that you need to immediately buy all the tabs that you need for all these different categories. One thing that I do as I'm building out my stash is first, I will have somewhat general categories. So as an example, we'll say I'll just have a tab called weapons. And then as I get more weapons and this tab starts to fill up, only then will I buy another tab, and we'll say I'll call it two-handed weapons. So now I have weapons and two-handed weapons, and I'll start to move all the two-handed over. And then as that fills up, I can split it out again. And then maybe I'll make two-handed axes. And then I can also do one-handed. And then maybe I don't need this anymore, so I can reallocate this to something like one-handed maces. So this is one way that as you get more items, you can add stash tabs accordingly rather than just immediately buying them all up front. This is very useful. I already do this in a lot of my different tabs here. So for example, in 3LP, I don't really have a whole lot. So I only have armor. You can see there's chest, boots, helms mixed together because I don't really have enough to justify a tab for each yet. Another thing that I think is also very helpful is consistent color coding. So you can see here, as an example, my idols are always this kind of bluish color. That's regardless of where it is. In my Mage tab, you can see it's the same blue. And in all my other ones, the same color. Uniques, I keep consistent with the color. And exalts, for T7 exalts, I always use this pink color. And for T6, for example, multi-exalts, I always use this purple color. And I find that this is useful to quickly visually identify what you're looking at based on what tab it is, or also your filter too. I use the same colors for the filter. So for example, the T7s, it's that same pink from the stash. The purples is the same purple here for T6, and so on. Being consistent here is very useful. Another thing I do with the color coding here is you can see with the uniques, I do alternating colors based on category so that I can more quickly visually identify the different types of items as there's like multiple. So you can see here I have 2 boots. I color them in orange, then I alternate red for chest, and then orange for helms. As I scroll through here quickly, you can see it's a lot easier to identify what I'm looking at. And next we'll talk a little bit about dump tabs. If you have a lot of items and a lot of tabs to put them in, if you sort your stuff every time you finish an echo, going through and finding one tab at a time for each item that you have, going through, dropping them in, it's very time consuming. If you use dump tabs with the search functionality, it's a lot quicker to, just an example, I can grab every experimental item, just grab all these, go in here, grab all these, and then I just dump these all in experimental. Then I can do the same with, say, keys. Go through, use the search, grab all keys, and then just dump them all into my key tab. And then I can repeat with, say, we'll say 2 LP items. I just type 2 legend here, and here are all the 2 LP. I can grab all of the armor pieces here. There's a chest, here's gloves, they're all highlighted. Gloves, helm, glove, and then I can put these all into the 2 LP categories here. So I find that this saves a lot of time of sorting your gear rather than going through and doing them all one by one. Another thing on the exact same note is for why do I put the unique items and separate them by LP. The reason I do this is for searchability. So if, for example, we search Twisted Heart, you can see just based on the tabs here, immediately you'll know that I have 1 in 0 LP. So I have a 0 LP, at least 1 Twisted Heart here. I have at least 1 LP Twisted Heart, so you can see the 1 LPs here. And then I also have some in my Slam tab. So these are everything for legendary crafting. So this immediately tells me that I have some ready to go here. And then I also have some failed slams just based on this tab, and I have some successful slams. So all of the information I need is available at a glance rather than just jumping into some unorganized tab and needing to manually skim through. So this is very helpful as well. The same with pretty much any unique item you're looking for. So we'll say unstable core, I have 1 LPs, I know I have 2 LPs, and I know I have some in my slam tabs. So also very helpful. Another thing that's really useful as you start to get a lot of uniques, which you tend to do as you run prophecies, as you get a large amount of a certain LP of a given unique, I find it is worthwhile to start trashing the lower level of those lesser LP ones. So for example, I have quite a lot of these as 3 LP, these tongue rings. And as I get these, I've now discarded all of my 2LPs and 1LPs because there's no reason I would ever need them anymore. With this many 3LPs, the same is true for every unique. So here, assuming I probably have already thrown out all the third eyes as well, because I have so many threes. And you can see some relics with the eye name, but yeah, I've already discarded all the 2LPs because I have this many 3LPs. And just doing that, you'll clear out a lot of your tabs over time. You'll see that my 2LP category is actually slightly larger than my 1LP just because of how many 1LPs I've discarded. And from that point, you can also stop picking them up as well, as there's no real point. So now I'll quickly just go through the categories, and in the next video I'll also give a stash tour, but for now the video is already pretty long. So just quickly going over here, I have idols. These are all defensive idols. There's like resistant health, generally useful affixes. Here I have double health, more defense, resist vitality, stuff like that. Ward retention, anything that's useful, all goes in the generic idol tab. I have keys. As I deplete these keys, I start picking them up again, and I'll grab them in from my dump tabs and replenish this key tab. Most of the time I'm not picking up keys, but when I get low I do start picking them up again. Experimentals, gloves and boots. Here we have sets. Once you get one good roll of a set, there's no real point continuing to pick them up. You can filter these out. I have almost all sets filtered out, except the few that I actually care about for high rolls. Currently I think it's just the Ferrobor ring and the ice amulet, the frozen heart. Then here I have lenses. Moving on to exalts, I've separated it by the type. Here's a bunch of gloves with generally useful affixes. These are all T7s. Same again, boots, and then I've separated by move speed, again because of searchability. If I search for move speed, every boot comes up because they all have move speed. These are move speed affixes rather than implicit, so these are separate. Then we have rings, amulets, belts. Miscellaneous is just relics, catalysts, whatever. I don't have a lot of these, so I haven't split it out. Then we have two-handeds. I don't have any two-hand builds on the go, so these are just generally useful. Then one hand, similar story, but I have a little bit more separation here. I put the daggers at the bottom just for space efficiency. Not super important, but just something I've done with the daggers here. And here's some random T6. These are just for leveling so that I can slap something on a new character. Nothing super amazing here, but generally useful affixes. Here we have multi-affix T6. Nothing crazy here, but just a few things that are hopefully maybe useful for a niche build, who knows. And then some more random T6 items here. Then I have the class for whatever I'm currently playing, which happens to be Mage. I put it near the front so I don't need to scroll as far. You can see I can immediately click it at the top, and all my other classes I keep towards the end. We have our Mage stuff here. I have some gear swaps for when I need to stun lock Orbis. Mage idols, Mage exalts separated by type. Then, as I said before, we have slams here. These are the uniques that I'm currently looking to slam something into, and the exalts for those slams. Here's all my failed slams, successful slams. Weaver's Will. These are all at least, I think the lowest might be 17 or 18. Here's a couple higher ones, some separation by category as well here. Boots. Here's 0 LP uniques. These are generally rare. Most of the time I do not keep 0 LPs, but these ones I thought were worth keeping. And then same for weapons. Then we have the 1 LP uniques. Yeah, I think you get the idea here. I'm not going to jump into that too much. And I do have 2 LPs here, 3 and 4. If you're interested in seeing these, I'll do the stash tour and go over them specifically. But for now, we'll just continue. Then I have the classes I'm not currently playing. So here's Acolyte, some generic items that I was swapping into my build depending on what I need. Exalts, idols, and then the same for every other class. Rogue here, generic items here that are useful. Exalts and idols. Sentinel, I don't currently have one, so it's just some random things that were useful affixes. and same for Primalist. Then at the end here I have a bunch of tabs I've cleared out, and I put them at the bottom so that I don't have to scroll past them. So this is just extra tabs right now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you found this useful. I will also have a stash tour in the next video, so if you're interested, check that out too. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Cheers.